being able to see space and time at a greater perspective and see, oh, wait a minute, she's just really stressed out today. I don't have to take on this judgment and blame. I can just let her have this moment of anger because she's in her space right now and it has nothing to do with me. Hello, hello. This is the Business of Happiness podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy. Guys, welcome. Welcome to today's episode. Shaming yourself is not a virtue. It is a sin. You know, you thought that being hard on yourself was a badge of honor this whole time. You thought that holding yourself up to this extremely high expectation was how you got to the excellence that you are now. And I'm here to tell you that it's actually the one thing limiting you from experiencing your true potential. Boom. Imagine that. All this time, we've been telling ourselves that, no, because I set such high expectations of myself, because I keep such high insistences on what I should or shouldn't be accomplishing or doing or how I show up, that's why I'm so successful. I mean, look at what you've done over your life. You have accomplished great things, and this whole time you thought it was because you were holding yourself up to such high standards and really beating yourself up when you weren't doing the right thing. And I'm here to tell you that it's time to up level. Because the way you really realize your true potential, your real possibilities for wealth and abundance and love and opportunity and, dare I say, happiness, is when you stop self-flagellating and beating yourself up and you start giving yourself the praise and the love and the compassion that you deserve. What if there was a world where everybody valued and loved themselves enough that they could drop their own self-judgment and drop their judgment of everyone else? Imagine that. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I had a patient who, it's quite a complex treatment plan that we're working on with this young man, and it's going beautifully, but it's a long-term project. He's been with me for several years, and it's going to keep going. He has a craniofacial disorder and a syndrome, and he's really going to need a lot of support from multiple practitioners. And this young man now is graduating high school and leaving to go to college very far away on the other side of the country. And so he's mid-treatment, and his mom, got on the phone and was quite angry and frustrated that he wasn't ready for his surgery. So we're leading up to orthognathic surgery. And we've known this for a while, that he wouldn't be ready yet this summer. But I think things have kind of come together in their household where they're putting together the plans of how he's going to move out to the West Coast. And so this week we had a conversation on the phone, and she was very activated and angry because her options are looking limited. And I had a couple of options in that moment, and I'd love you to put yourself in that place right now as a practitioner, a healthcare provider, a doctor, a dentist, where you really want to do your best, obviously, for your patients. And so you go out of your way to do your best for them. And there comes a moment, especially, and maybe you're even seeing great results, right? Your best is really a good thing, and the treatment plan is going beautifully, and everything is going exactly as it should. And you really have had a great relationship with this family. And now mom is mad. She's mad. She's getting really frustrated. She starts trying to find blame. And so really we have two options in that moment. One is, and this is my old self and what so many of us do. And, still to this day, I tend to go into this behavior pattern, but I've really learned to recognize it. And what that is self-blame, self-flagellation, self-admonishment, self-critiquing, Where is this and how is this my fault? How can I should have this, I should have that. If I look back, I should have been more clear. Maybe we should have had more conversations about this. Maybe even the technique I was using should have been different. Maybe I should have chosen a different path. Maybe I shouldn't have taken on this case. Maybe I should have paid attention to red flags all along, right? We start literally, quote unquote, shoulding on ourselves, telling ourselves where we were inadequate, where we didn't quite step up to that level of excellence, that perfection that we really demand of ourselves. And if we put ourselves in that space for one moment, please just recognize what that would do. So if I went to that space and I started telling myself, Tarryn, you should have told them more. Maybe you should have even been aware of this, 3 years ago when you took on this case. Maybe you shouldn't even have taken on this case. Maybe you should have tried a different treatment technique. When we're in that space, what happens automatically? Automatically, we slip into a feeling that is disempowered. When we start beating ourselves up, we immediately drop down our emotional vibrational scale to a place where we feel disempowered, right? Now I feel like I did something wrong. Now I feel like I should be ashamed. Now I feel like I should apologize. Right? And then fear steps in, right? What if I apologized in this moment? How would she perceive that? Would she see this all as a mistake? And I'm going to walk you back to the beginning of the story where I told you, man, everything's going beautifully. This case is progressing spectacularly. I'm really proud of the progress of this really complex craniofacial syndrome patient with a lot of moving parts, many, many missing teeth. Let me see, how many missing teeth does he have? All his bicuspids and 2 canines. So, from an orthodontic perspective, this is a really challenging case, a surgical orthognathic case. And, I'm really, on the outside, really proud of how things have been progressing for him. And in a moment, we can have something happen like a conversation or an external stimulus, some kind of an event outside of us that can literally put us back into that self-blame, self-judgment, self-critiquing space. And what it does is it brings us way, way down to a place of not feeling good, disempowerment. And when we're in a place of disempowerment and fear, we can't access that beautiful, brilliant brain of ours. We can't access those important components of what makes us good healthcare providers, what makes us good people, humans, what makes us good parents, what makes us good leaders, what makes us good significant others to our spouses. Anytime we get into a place of self-hatred, we lose access to that beautiful part of ourselves. And what's so interesting is so many of us have told ourselves that that's how we keep ourselves honest, right? We wear that almost as a badge of honor. Well, I'm really hard on myself, and that's why I got to where I am. But what I'm here to tell you is that it's actually the one thing that's limiting you from being even greater, from being able to achieve even greater success. And I mean in all aspects of the word, in terms of financial wealth, in terms of love, in terms of happiness, in terms of peace and calm and mental health, calm, in terms of that ever elusive balance that we're all dreaming of. What is literally holding you back are those self-judgmental focuses that we slip into on a daily basis. And what happens is we might not even be aware of it because it's become this ongoing talk track in our own heads that's been on repeat for so long that we've become so numb to it, we don't even realize when we beat ourselves up, right? But the moment you beat yourself up, you shut down your nervous system from being able to access all the important components of what makes you a great human, a great practitioner, a great leader. When you shame and self-flagellate yourself, it's not a source of motivation. It's not. We used to think that it was, and maybe it was to a certain extent, but it's an absolute recipe for burnout. imagine that like whipping the horse in front of the cart to go faster, 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 faster. And the horse keeps running faster and faster because there's a whip coming for it. And he just can't get away from the whip. That's what we're doing to ourselves. It is absolutely a recipe for burnout and exhaustion and depression, right? Depression, the source of depression is hopelessness. That's the source of depression, feeling hopeless and helpless. And if what we are our own worst enemy, constantly critiquing, constantly blaming, constantly judging ourselves, no matter what we do, we are setting ourselves up for depression. We are the whippers. We are the jockey with the whip on the back of the horse. Closes us off, immediately when we get to that place where we feel helpless and hopeless. Like, I've been trying my best, and here I am beating myself up for it. It closes us off to perspective and possibility. So just take that example for a moment of me on the phone with a mom. She's angry. If I go to that place of self-admonishment, regardless of what's happened, I'm even giving room for maybe I used the wrong treatment technique. Maybe I had the wrong treatment plan. Maybe I even didn't have great communication. Let's even say there is actual fault here. It's still not a reason to blame ourselves. Now, let's pause with that for a moment, because that might be hitting you very hard right now. We say, oh, no. Self-reflection, looking back over what I did and didn't do correctly, helps me grow as a person. And hell yes, it does. Let me be the first one to support self-reflection. 100%. There's no other way to grow. We have to have history. This is why looking back over history in our society is so important. We have to learn from our mistakes. Yes, 100%. I'm talking about the evil twin that sits on the side and starts admonishing, blaming, self-shaming on the sidelines. That's the part that is absolutely detrimental to further growth and to evolution. It's that evil side that wants to tell you how bad you should feel about whatever's happened, whether it was a mistake or an actual or the correct thing to do. And really, so much of that is judgment, right? So much of that is perspective and perception. But let's go back for a moment to what I was mentioning. When we're in that place of feeling terrible about ourselves, we lose all perspective and possibility when you're feeling bad about yourself. In that moment on the phone with that patient's mom, if I was going into myself and really beating myself up, I lose the solution to the moment. Right? It closes us off from creative problem solving. It closes us off from ingenuity. It closes us off to humanity and compassion for others and for ourselves. We lose sight of the fact that we're working with a human being here and it's not about us. How freeing is that? It's not about you. Here's a beautiful perspective to hold in that moment, but it can only be achieved with compassion and grace. But let me show you the perspective. The perspective is this mom is feeling overwhelmed. She's probably assigned herself a day in her busy schedule to get all of this young man's doctor's appointments and dentist appointments lined up before he moves for college. She's probably busy in the rest of her life and given herself this timeline today. And she's come up against a sticking point where she's realizing, oh no, how am I going to do this all next year when he's living on another coast? And then her fear steps in and her self-judgment steps in and starts questioning her parenting. And from that fear-based place, she lashes out. Maybe she's thinking, oh, I should have this, I should have that, I should have this, I should have asked more questions, I should have started this when he was younger, I should have gotten him on time to the appointments, I should have been more proactive and shown up to the appointments. She's probably doing the exact same thing, self-flagellation, self-blame, self-critiquing, and getting herself to such a low space emotionally that the only thing that feels better than helpless and hopeless is anger and blame, right? Anger and blame feels so much better than victimized and defeated. Hey guys, I'm interrupting your podcast episode to let you know about an incredible new program that I'm launching in January of 2023. It is specifically for practitioners in medicine and dentistry to help you rediscover happiness and inner fulfillment within your profession and your life. I remember what it was like for me when years ago I was so depressed and anxious and feeling like I had created and built a treadmill I just couldn't get off of, pushing through every day and wishing my life away. This program is the how of how to find happiness in your practice and in your life, because we know that when we feel good, that's when we can do good. Check out thebizofhappiness.com/radical happiness, or click the link in the show notes. I cannot wait to see you there. And really, if we can allow ourselves a moment to recognize, wow, what's really happening here? Pull yourself up to this 50,000-foot vantage point of being able to see space and time at a greater perspective and see, oh, wait a minute, she's just really stressed out today. I don't have to take on this judgment and blame. I can just let her have this moment of anger because she's in her space right now and it has nothing to do with me. But reminding ourselves, oh, yes, this is a beautiful case. Things are going really, really well. And here we have this intersection of choice. What do we do going forward? And that's all it is. That's all it is. We have new information. This young man's moving across the country, new information. Now we have some choices to make. And how do we open up that beautiful buffet table of options to both mom and to me so that we can come up with a creative solution? But it takes us being in a great emotional space. It takes us being in a space of ownership, empowerment, support, self-confidence, and that is the responsible way to care for our patients. It's not the egotistical way, it's the responsible way. And that's where I'm saying today that our radical personal responsibility for our own health, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, is such a critical part of our ability to be good healthcare providers. It is actually our responsibility, our deep responsibility to take care of ourselves. Remember what I say at the end of every episode, when you feel good, you can do good. This is it. Because we can't access that creative problem solving if we're feeling terrible about ourselves, if we're beating ourselves up and treating ourselves like shit. So what do we do in the moment? I'm going to offer you one technique. And this is one of the techniques that I actually teach in my Radical Happiness for Practitioners course. I'm going to tell you, pause for a moment now in this episode to tell you about it, because Radical Happiness is a 12-week program that's created especially for doctors and dentists and healthcare providers on how to access these tools, these practices, to be able to be in our highest self all the time. When a patient is angry, when our kids are pissing us off, when we're in fear mode or our team members are showing drama, when the economy crashes, when we lose all of our retirement, when our parents are getting old and we're feeling overwhelmed by taking care of everybody in our lives and feeling like we have to show up. This is the how to find your power in all of those moments in your life so that you can show up as your higher self. That's what radical happiness is about. The happiness part is how you feel when you show up as your higher self. Radical happiness is how to find enormous success and abundance and joy in your life and live your best life. I mean, maybe that fear comes up for you when you think, gee, I want to leave medicine and dentistry, but I am too scared to. Or maybe it's, gee, I want to really stand up and make some new policy in my state in medicine and dentistry and have actual change, but I'm too afraid to. Who am I? Radical Happiness is the program that gives you that power, that helps you tuck back into the power that is within you all along. And it is, I promise, every single one of you is worthy of it. And so this is one of those techniques that I teach in Radical Happiness. So this is what I'm most proud of in this course, is that I actually give you real tools. We don't just talk about the philosophy of it, but we actually get into practices and tools and tips that you can use in every single day in your practice and in your life. And we also uncover the subconscious limiting beliefs that are not allowing you to stand up in your higher self and to stand up as your authentic self in all parts of your life. So this one tip that I want to share with you is called the side-by-side. And the side-by-side is such an amazing practice. It really is. So it's for exactly these moments when we're feeling completely defeated, when we start slipping into that negative self-talk, and we start finding ourselves in that old talk track of beating ourselves up. That used to work, that got us a certain distance there, but now we're feeling stuck and like we've plateaued or we're just unhappy where we are, right? It got you through dental school, got you through medical school, beating yourself up, but man, now you're unhappy. So what to do next? So this is one of those tools. And trust me, I have a whole litany of them. So this one's called a side-by-side. And a side-by-side is something you can do on a napkin, in a restaurant. You can do it. I've done it on receipts in my car when I just needed some paper because I'm in a negative headspace. And you can do it on any piece of paper, but it does require a piece of paper. And the reason why is because it's so important for us to take the thought that's spinning around inside our own heads, that negative thought about ourselves, that evil twin I was talking about, that's beating ourselves up, that self-flagellation and self-admonition, that thought, to pull it out of your head and actually look at it on the page. You know, there's this scene from Harry Potter. I don't know how many of you are Harry Potter fans, but I think it's called like the Pensieve or something, where he pulls a memory out of his head with his wand. And I love that scene. His wand is pointing at his head, and then as he pulls it away from his head, you see this spiderweb thin strand that's supposed to be the memory. That's what I want you to envision, taking the thought out of your head. So what you do on the piece of paper is you draw a vertical line down the center of the paper, and then you draw another horizontal line near the top. So if you're looking at the YouTube version of this episode, you're going to see, I just drew it for you here. Okay, so very simple. It's almost like a T shape, but the horizontal line doesn't go right at the top of the vertical line. It just goes a step down. That's all. Very easy, very simple. And on the left, so what you've done is you've created two columns, two vertical columns. And on the left, you're going to write, my mind says. So that's the title of the left column. And the right column, you're going to write, but I say. Okay, and that's that simple. So I'm just literally scribbling this down for you right now. I'm showing you on the YouTube version of this episode what that looks like. On the left column, you write, my mind says, and on the right column, you title it, but I say. And the whole point of this is we're going to put what your mind is telling you about the situation in that left column. And this is the part where you're pulling the thought out of your head. As you pull the thought out of your head, you're writing it in that left-hand column of my mind says, and you say everything that your mind says. My mind says I'm not good enough. My mind says I'm a terrible practitioner. I'm a terrible doctor. My mind says I'm a terrible leader. I should have had other team members with better informed consent. My mind says I made a mistake taking on this patient. I should have paid attention to the red flags. All of those things we're writing down on my mind says. All those terrible things that you're beating yourself up over. They're usually going to fall around the idea of I'm not good enough. Right? That's usually what it comes down to. I'm not good enough. Right? The great thing about it is that you're taking this thought out of your head and literally disconnecting it from who you are. We're showing ourselves that I am not my thoughts, right? And then you're putting it down on paper and you can really look at it for what it is. And you can say, oh my gosh, look how hard I'm being on myself. Look at how terrible I'm saying these horrible things to myself. Now in the right-hand column, we get to choose what we want to hear. We get to actually bring on board, instead of that negative, self-judgmental part of ourselves, we get to bring on our greatest cheerleader. And the purpose of it is simply and selfishly and purely to be a better provider, or if it's about your kids, a better parent, or if it's about your family members, to be a better family member. Because we know that when you feel good about yourself, you can access those intelligent parts of your brain. You can access those intelligent, creative, problem-solving parts of your brain. So on the right side, we write down, but I say, and then we start pouring on not just fake praise, actual praise. I say, I am a really good doctor. I really care about my patients. This mom, I can really feel her pain. And that matters because I see the humanity in all of my patients, and that matters to me. I say I really care about excellence. I really care about delivering my best. I care about being the best possible doctor for my patients. I care about constantly up-leveling and self-evaluating and knowing that I can grow every day and every week and every year. I also really love myself. I love that I've gone through this journey. I love that I keep serving no matter what. I love that I'm learning that even when patients or parents of patients are in a trauma response or a fear response, I can learn how to regulate my nervous system. I say I really care. Now, suddenly what we're doing in the side-by-side is we're showing ourselves the truth. We're giving ourselves real evidence. We're not allowing ourselves to be victim of the automatic talk track, the monkey mind inside our own heads. We're giving ourselves ownership over our reality, ownership over our perceived lived experience, over how we feel about ourselves. And the moment we do that, we start coming up with new creative problem solving. When I did this in that moment with the patient, I realized, oh, I can just put this patient in Invisalign at this point in his treatment, and I can treat him virtually from across the country. And he could just check in with telehealth. And he can keep the same oral surgeon, and he can keep me. And his mom can keep the same connection. We don't have to throw this all to the birds or move to a new practitioner or find a new healthcare provider, right? Suddenly we can come up with these creative problem solving. And with calm and compassion, we can start addressing the problem with our patient, even in the moment. So I highly recommend, give it a shot. Try out this side-by-side. You are going to love it. I mean, you can even do it right now, even though something's not actually happening in your world right now that's triggering you. Maybe there's something that's been weighing heavy on you. Maybe it's an interaction with a family member that you have been beating yourself up over. And by using the side-by-side, just for a moment, see if you can't give yourself a new perspective that puts you in a higher emotional vibrational state, makes you feel better about yourself so that you can find greater perspective. Maybe it's not even a problem that needs solving. It's just something that you need to feel better about so that you can show up with love. And you don't have to add on the blame or the anger, the resentment. That's always the sticking point, is when we're feeling anger and resentment, it's going against our true self, our higher self. That's why it feels so uncomfortable. Blame and anger and resentment would feel great if it was in alignment with who we want to be. But your inner self knows that feels so uncomfortable. It feels good for a little bit because it feels better than hopelessness and helplessness, but it never feels good in a sustainable fashion. Over a while, it feels heavy and ugly. None of us like to be angry. None of us like to be resentful. But man, when we can tuck into love, now we get to a whole nother level. And now your ability to up-level as a practitioner, as a healthcare provider, as a human being is off the chart. That's when we start blowing away that glass ceiling. That's when we start seeing ourselves really finding success in life. True, authentic, fulfilling success. Imagine a world where when you were faced with something that triggered you and brought up this old habit pattern of self-flagellation, self-admonition, you could be aware and catch yourself and spin it on a dime to tap back into your empowered place. Imagine a world where you could show up authentically as yourself every single time and never have that conversation with yourself in the shower or in the middle of the night where you think, I should have said this, I should have said that. Why didn't I say this? If I could go back in time, what if you always had the presence of mind of what you need to say, how you need to show up, and how you need to feel about yourself so that you can do the important things that you are here to do on this planet? That, my friend, is what we do in Radical Happiness for Practitioners. That is where I'm inviting you to join me. So please check out www.thebizofhappiness.com/radical happiness. Check out this 12-week program. It is phenomenal and it will change your life, I promise. That is a promise. That is a money-back guarantee. It will change your life. So come on over. It's open enrollment right now for doctors and dentists and healthcare providers. If you're a physical therapist, you are welcome. All of my veterinarians, you are welcome. This is exclusively for you to be able to rediscover that power within yourself. Enrollment is open now. The next cohort starts May 22nd, 2023. I invite you to sign up now before I fill up all my spaces and join us in making this summer the summer that changes your life. I love you so much, my friends. Remember, when you feel good, that's when you can do good. Bye-bye.